What's up, guys? You know the deal. Another Friday, another live stream. Got to speak up. Had a Camaro. We're doing some little turbo work and a wash on coming out. He's going to be pulling in a Mustang for a silver package exterior detail. Figured I just started off right. Little clean car action. Getting out in that sun. God, you guys know we love our 5th gens here. So we got the black S550 over there. That's actually my mother's car getting washed. Matt's doing his work on it. So I have a nice clean car for my mother. Let's see what else we got going on. We got the old Jeep. Got the old purple people eater. So windage tray, need one of those for that sucker. Hey Jeff, man of the hour. So let's see what else we got going. Jeep, Arturo's hard at work over yonder, doing his magic. Let's go check in with Arturo, see what he's got going on. Arturo, my man.
Hey.
Looking good.
Yep.
What you got going on her?
I swapped that for that.
The oil pan?
And I put those on.
Ah.
And I'll put that on.
Oh, he's putting things on, y'all. So this was a motor that was set up for a car chassis. So we have to swap some things over to work on the Jeep. You know, not really the typical build, not really what this motor was, you know, ever designed for, but we like to do things kind of crazy. So she should be looking forward to this pretty soon. The parts delays are kind of ending, so we're able to finally get on the road again with this thing and progress. Thank God. So this will be real exciting. This thing is going to make way more power than it should, be way faster than it should, and do things that Jeeps are not designed for. So I am unbelievably excited for that. And Arturo is just the man to make it happen. So
It was in there already.
Mm-hmm.
I just have to pull it back out to finalize some things.
Gotcha. So quality first. So he's giving himself the room he needs to make sure it's done right the first time. And that's how we do it, baby. So don't forget, we do have a Trackhawk motor over yonder, able for sale. If you don't buy it, I'm going to put it in a Subaru or something, but let's go. Keep jails, crab walking down the highway. Yeah, I might twist the axle just so it, you know, does one of those. It'd be funny. But I saw Doug Rayburn. Mr. Rayburn was in here earlier. And this is yours, baby. Look at that port. Ooh-wee. And look at this little Grip-Tech pulley, but yeah, that's that Kong CNC port. You can see her all the way in there, bearing plate, snout. Looking so beautiful. This one's going to get a 108 millimeter throttle body, and this one was finished in the satin black. So when you send your blowers in, we are able to powder coat them. They can do gloss, satin, or matte. I believe they only offer black. They might offer some other colors. I'm not 100% sure. If you guys want to ask, though, hit me up, and we'll get a little lick in there. But yeah, this thing's going to be fun for you, Doug. She's going to be a ripper. So your throttle body is here. So this is the 108 throttle body from Kong. It comes in you can get it raw on anodized silver, or you can get it black. Of course, the black is going to be the way to go with this blower. And they look real nice. So, yeah, I can't wait for this thing. These cars are actually very similar. This is just a 1.5. This is going to the 3.5, similar cams. He actually opted for a cam. There's a bunch of stuff that's not normally a level 1.5 that's on this car. Headers, cam, stuff like that, diff brace. So we got John over here finalizing the catch can, our Billet Evolution Street catch can with our 1 PSI little vent port up there. Of course, we got the drain in it. Really nice to not have to mess around and unscrew a hot catch can. You just park on someone's lawn you hate, flip the valve, whoosh, Bob's your uncle. All the gunk is drained. So this one, also a powder-coated ported blower on it. Same color. This is just a stock throttle body. It will kind of help limit it, so it's a little bit safer on pump gas when we are on the 93 tune. So this car also has our billet valve covers. Looking oh so pretty, making spark plug aim changes so much easier. If you guys have not changed spark plugs on Hellcats and you own a Hellcat, go try and do it. It is the worst thing you will ever do. It is horrible. I would rather have a root canal with no painkiller than do Hellcat spark plugs. Maybe a bit of an exaggeration, but, you know, it's not fun in the slightest. So this one's almost done. Should be getting out of here soon. Fired up for the first time not too long ago. Sounds stupid. Sounds so nasty with that cam. So I love this Charger. Gotta love this color too. Doug really knocked it out of the park with this color. It's that kind of bluish steel gray. You don't see too many of them. I can't remember the color name off the top of my head. I think it's Max Steel, but I'm not sure. Find someone with... I know, Jeff, I'm skinny. I'm sorry, but I don't eat. So, little GT in for a wash. It's my mom's car. She's watching. Hi, Mom. So, it will be good looking. Oh, it is Max Steel. Okay, that's what I thought. So, we don't do Mustangs, but of course, we wash them. See, I thought it was Max Steel. I kind of know what I'm talking about here and there, but little Mustang in. It's black. It's filthy. It needs a wash. It's bad, guys. Don't drive it in the winter, so it just sits in the garage and it gets filthy. So Matt's going to do his magic on it. I'm not going to film the man because he does not like the camera, and I will honor his wishes. And I like to wake up and be able to take breaths. And filming Matt is a quick way to get rid of that. So let's see the progress on this Jeep. I don't know if our fab guy has come in. It looks like he has. There is more progress up there. So manifold looking like it's a lot closer to completion. Shouldn't be too much left after this. And you guys should... keep an eye out for a turbo WK1 on the rollers pretty here soon. This thing is going to be a riot. It's going to sound like the heavens are opening up and the angels are singing. This thing's going to be fun, y'all. So, big old intercooler going to go up somewhere, or we might try and get them on air to water. We'll see. We'll see. Lots in the works here. This bike was also washed, or I shouldn't say the wash. The tank was washed. He went after the tank. We didn't do the wheels because he's swapping them out. So 2 wheels or 4. If you need a detail, ceramic coat, PPF, whatever it may be, let us know. We can help you guys. We can help you. Again, if your car is here getting work, Doug, anyone, if your car is here getting worked on and you want a wash or a detail or anything, hit us up. We can probably work a deal with you. So... I love that wing. I love that wing so much. It's a big old thing. Carbon. Put some respect on it. That carbon fibre. But yeah, so that's kind of this week's updates. Nothing too crazy. Some builds that should be done relatively shortly. So waiting on the inner chiller for that car. So gonna get the blower on, put it on the dyno, and then inner chiller, and then give her back and let her tear up the streets and put some BMWs in their place. So a lot of people like talking smack, and they don't got the car to follow it up. Doug does. So let's see what else we got. Oh, wrapping. I forget. At one point, this tank was blue. It's black now. We do wraps. Hit us up. We do wraps. Hit us up. We offer deals, baby. We offer deals. Jeremy, should you wrap a car? Absolutely. And what color should you wrap it?
Green.
You kind of got like a theme going on there, buddy. It's almost like it's, shop colors.
Yeah, weird, right? What's going on, everybody? Thanks for checking in.
It's hot.
It's warm today.
It is hot.
What you got? 3D printers behind you.
What you got in your hand, Jay?
Oh, wow, what a transition.
Yeah.
So, Joe hates when I do this, but just showing off some of the prototypes of what we got going on. So, what you have here is going to be an adapter for our billet intake manifolds. So, actually, I can show you here. Joe's really going to hate me.
Oh,
bring it over. So, this is a lid concept for our billet intake manifolds. So, what that is this will allow us to bolt onto it. This will bolt onto it and allow us to change the direction at which your snout goes, right? So this one will bolt on and direct it where a Hellcat blower normally would be. So our helium customers that have turbo kits on, for example, you can buy the manifold and then bolt this on to have the location be where it is. We'll have this for 5.7, 392. The beautiful thing for us TRX owners, you don't need to run your snout over if you're doing a billet intake manifold to the driver's side. We're going to make one that will go over to the passenger side, greatly reducing the charge pipe that's needed. No more 180 going into the throttle body.
Air doesn't like sharp ends like
It doesn't.
that.
It's like water,
Yeah.
right? It creates a lot of turbulence. It slows things down. So one of the benefits of the manifolds we're coming out with is going to be the flexibility to basically route your intake anywhere that you want. Straightforward, left, right, 45, 30. You let us know, and we're going to be able to not only 3D print one, but we're going to be able to cut one on our CNC machines as well.
That just saves a huge amount of downtime with fabricating new charge pipes. Just, I want to switch manifolds. I don't want to fabricate new charge pipes.
Right.
No, you don't have to.
Right. Exactly.
Order for the intake you already had, and
yeah, so
exciting
innovation,
stuff.
yeah, we're really excited. So we're just waiting for these new CNC machines to drop. So there was a convention that they had locally, so it kind of delayed the drop off. So probably next week's live, you guys will be able to see the updated machines. So
fingers crossed, baby.
Phil, hurry up, get those
Yes.
going, man. Come on. So all right, let's jump into the questions. See what we got going on.
All right. Could you, should you, if you're wanting to be able to race but still have a little bit of reliability without a lot of stress in your car, could you, should you do rolls or digs? What is more stressful? They're both kind of stressful.
Yeah, that's not a could you, should you. That's just more of a, what does it do? So generally, they both have their stressors in their own way. So I'll say, from dig racing, launching is going to be the most stressful on components, right? That's when things normally break, other than like shooting a rod up top because you're just leaning on it too much or a feeling issue. But stress-wise, especially on the Mopar platform, moving a 4,500 pound plus, a TRX, for example, 6,500 pound plus vehicle from a dead stop to as fast as you can go acceleration-wise, you want to talk about stress, that's where it's at. Now, a totally different type of stress is road racing, where we have guys that go 160, 180, some try to do 200 miles an hour. Totally different type of stress you're facing. Loads change, aerodynamics, temperatures, right? A wide open throttle pull at 180 miles an hour is a lot longer than a car that might go 115. So that's one of those. They have stressors in their own way. So you're going to see more of a stressor on a transmission and an engine due to load, roll racing. Where from a dig, you're going to see a lot of load on suspension components, rear end, drivetrain axles.
I mean, everyone's seen
like
videos of, diffs blowing up on a launch. You don't really see it on rolls where, there are tons of videos of someone doing a roll and all of a sudden smoke pours out the back.
Right.
So,
yeah, so different stressors at different points.
Absolutely.
All around racing is stressful, but you're going to see different things are going to be stressed in those moments. So
you're saying that you shouldn't expect to do, 300 hits without any single issue?
yeah, exactly.
Oh.
Yeah, doesn't matter how much money you spend on it either. Nothing is reliable. We're relying on mass-produced metal pieces, parts, stuff like that. I tell people, look at NHRA drag racers, right? Look how expensive their motors are. They go with multiple motors to their events because they expect them to blow up, right? So these guys that have hundreds of thousands of dollars just into an engine, they still blow up. So when you spend your 10 grand, 15 grand on a long block or your short block,
Every run.
you know what I mean? It's not necessarily going to be reliable just because you spend 10, 15 grand. So understand racing is stressful, especially on a street car. So what else you got? What's the next one?
Could you, should you, for a nice, well-rounded, drivable street car, big single or twin turbos?
So this has been asked in the past, what's better? From a performance, temperature, thermal, spool, technically it's stated that a larger single turbo can produce more horsepower efficiently with thermal efficiency and so on and so forth. Naturally, you have more cylinders feeding into one versus splitting it up and splitting your engine in half. The reason we see most people go to a twin setup is for main reason is space. Sometimes for higher horsepower applications, it's hard to get a turbo big enough, being a single where you can fit it to achieve the horsepower goals. So when you break that down into two turbos, it makes it easier to place them. In the engine bay and stuff like that, a large single is very hard. We have a couple cars with 88 millimeter big T6s in the engine bay. It's tight, very tight. So naturally, a twin 64 setup mounted low or even in the engine bay, there's more room to work with. So again, it's not like one is better than the other for a driving condition or anything. You want to spec the turbos to, the goals that you have with the vehicle. And bigger isn't always better, right? So we have two customers that had other shops build their twin turbo setups, and they came to us for tuning originally. Well, guess what? After going to the racetrack, driving the vehicles on the street, guess what they're doing? They're putting smaller turbos on it. Like when we had our shop car, I was told by a couple of people, oh, your turbos are too small, you're not going to achieve the goals you want, and guess what we did? So bigger isn't always better. You have to look at flow charts and what those actual goals are to achieve. you want to, again, like a blower, get the smallest turbo you can that will still flow and achieve the goals that you want. So, you got to keep that in mind. The daily driver doesn't benefit from having a twin 72 millimeter setup. Even with a 426 or 440, it's going to be laggy, man. Especially on stock PCM, you're going to have limitations. You can't get, those extra perks and stuff that a standalone provides. So, the reality is you really got to spec it accordingly. And just by swapping some turbos, spool characteristics change, 60 foots drop, you notice it's easier and more fun to drive on the street. It sounds cool when you got a laggy setup, but it doesn't mean anything when the turbos aren't actually making boost, you know what I mean? So, again, with a single, you don't want to put a 104 millimeter single turbo on when your goal is 1,000 horsepower.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's going to take forever to spool up. We had a manual trans car that somebody put an 88 millimeter turbo, single turbo, on their manual car when their goal at the time was like 800 wheel. It made absolutely no sense. So we swapped to a 76 mil turbo and almost made 1,000 to the wheels. So we not only made way more horsepower, but the thing drove great. It lit off so quick. It made
that was a fun car. Oh my God.
So at the end of the day, bigger isn't always better. So you just got to spec it according to everything involved.
Interesting you mentioned it. Not saying I wrote down, but could you, should you, why do you see it? It seems like you see more people going for the 426s versus the 440s. Is there a reason why, or is it just kind of, that's just how it is?
Yeah, so displacement, when you hear those numbers, is a combination of the bore and the stroke. So naturally, to get more, you have to make the piston travel further within the bore, in which you make bigger. So naturally, when you go to a 440, you're limited on the stroke you can do, and a 426 is pretty aggressive as is. You're going to have to bore it over more. And what happens is you start making the cylinder wall very thin. So not a big fan of that, right? You want to have some cylinder wall in there. They're iron blocks. They're tough. But, once you exceed the standard bore for a 426, you start to get a very thin cylinder wall in between the cylinders, which just reduces the reliability and the strength. So that's one of those things to consider when going into it. And at the end of the day, the displacement will have a very small effect on your actual horsepower output. We have 6.2 cars, making 1,300, 1,400 horsepower. We have 426s making 13, 14, 1,500 horsepower. So you got to spec it accordingly. A proper flowing, even 392, 6.2 liter, 6.4 liter, 5.7, you can still make stupid power with it as long as you spec it accordingly through and throughout. So don't overdo it. That's why I'm a fan of 410s, 411s, 419s. Get a little more cylinder wall. To take that abuse in those circumstances. I'll tell you, get a 440 and you overheat it one time or get a little hot, good luck.
Cooked. Yeah. So it's nice to have that kind of like safety.
Yeah.
Where oops, it's not out. I'm out a $10,000 motor. It's okay. It just needs a little refresh.
Right. Absolutely. So we have a motor here now that was bored 10 over, sadly.
Mm-hmm.
I know you're watching.
Yeah.
And it had a spring. Basically dropped the valve, and because of that, he bored 10 over. He needs a new block already. You know what I mean? So you got to try to minimize that, especially like I said, it strings did, and if anything were to happen, you can still utilize that block. So things to consider.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, man. Should you? Pros and cons, 8-speed swapping Nag 1 cars. Is it easy? How drivable are they?
Oh, they're great.
Will it still pass emissions?
Yeah, so the transmission doesn't affect emissions, so let's start there. So the most common way when utilizing the factory PCM on your Nag 1 equipped car is like a Sound German standalone or a secondary standalone transmission controller unit, which does not affect emissions, right? So the most common go-to is that Sound German we see. They actually supply you a second OBD2, so you can tune with their software or HP tuners like we do. It drives great. I mean, like we've talked about in some of the lives from the past, that when you compare like a 2013 SRT Jeep to a 2014 with 8-speed swap, they almost knock a full second off their time by that 8-speed. Same thing in the 392 or 5.7s where, in 15 when they came out with the 8-speeds and those, you saw a significant reduction in time when they didn't make that much more power. Yes, there's more gears, but it's holding you in the power band more in regards to time frame going down the quarter mile. You're in that peak power band instead of dropping too low and having a gear take longer to go through. You get to use that torque multiplication of those lower gears to get you there. So instead of being 1-to-1 in 4th gear, you have till 6th gear, meaning you have 5 gears of torque multiplication. So definitely a lot of benefits to it. Is it worth it? that's up to you and what you're trying to achieve. I've had several customers do it. They might be able to chime in if they see this later. In regards to drivability, definitely fuel economy increase. You have the potential where, like I said, you see reduction in time as long as gearing and power output is right based on where your power band is. So, but yeah, you install that with all the necessary drive shafts, trans mounts, everything like that, and the sound German. It's not that hard per se. You just switch your PCM logistics thinking into manual trans and take off and have fun. So, yeah, like I said, in regards to worthwhile, is it better to trade your NAG 1 in and get a 8-speed equipped already vehicle? You have to weigh the options of the cost to buy the sound German, the transmission, all of the things needed to transfer it over, the tuning and all of that, and see where the pros and cons come in. So that's up to you. So I do see significant performance improvements over it in most builds. So.
Could you, should you, on Hellcat vehicles?
Oh, there you go.
If you want more power, would you recommend porting the blower, snout, or putting a cam long tubes in a Hellcat?
Again, that's up to you. You know what I mean? It all depends on the fuel you're going to be running, right? Because if you can't run E85 or race gas all the time, porting the blower doesn't really serve a purpose because you can't exceed a certain amount of boost in regards to keeping reliability there. So that's where a cam and long tubes come into play, because what that's doing is improving efficiency, where the result, if you change nothing else, is going to drop the boost, allowing you to pulley down, increase airflow out of your blower or given setup. So that really is up to you in the long term. We had a almost 900 wheel horsepower pump gas car here because it had a headers cam and improve the efficiency. So with that, we were able to pulley down still, increase the blower speed, of which the blower is feeding more air, making that 900 we normally would need E85 for on another setup, because it was only at like 14, 15 pounds.
Nice.
So it depends on your setup, right? Combination of both, sir, absolutely. If you want to do E85 and a cam and long tubes and do everything like that, you can make 950, 1,000, 1,050 to the wheel and not even exceed 20 pounds of boost. So very efficient setup, making a lot of power without the strain or stress on everything around. So one of the perks of reduced boost is better temperatures. The heat soak is reduced. You don't see as high air charge temps because it's not fighting itself trying to make that power. Again, boost is a measurement of restriction. So any way we can reduce the boost but make power means you're improving efficiency. So yeah, that's up to you to determine where you're at, what you're trying to go for. If you like the sound of a cam and the long tubes, go for it. So yeah, that's specific to your goals. But both are ways to improve horsepower.
Could you, should you, for 6.1 folks, could you stay with the 6.1, boost that, or is it better to do a 426 and go that route? Is there a noticeable increase in power, longevity? I guess that would depend on how it's built.
Yeah, well,
stock 6.1, build 6.1.
Yeah, there's so many variables within. Again, displacement doesn't always mean you can make more horsepower. I've seen in situations like that where a proper built 6.1 flowed and made more horsepower than a stroke 7-liter because it wasn't spec'd correctly. So, engines at the end of the day, displacement does help produce more torque if it's done right, which torque is ultimately what makes horsepower. So you can potentially make more, but it doesn't always mean that's the case. A lot of our builds here are, just 6.2s with strengthened internals and a proper heads cam setup and flowing very well, making the same power as 426s. So that's a very loaded question. There's way too many variables in there. Naturally, a stock 6.1 can only take so much power. So when you go to a 7-liter and you put forged internals and strengthened it, sure, that can make more horsepower and produce a higher horsepower long term. Reliability, again, we're fans of keeping a little cylinder wall in there, so not a 426, maybe a 411, 400 to 420 cubic inch or something has a little more cylinder wall. Fans of that, you know what I mean? So kind of a loaded question, way too much in regards to what's your power at or how, what's your RPM you want to go to and so on and so forth. So hard question to answer. You can make a 6.1 reliable and you can make a 7-liter reliable. It just depends on what you're putting into it and what your horsepower goal is to keep that. So
just wanted to clarify on your flex fuel post the other day. If a Hellcat is pulled down to normally run E, would our boost bleed feature on our true flex fuel, would it be safe to put a little 93 octane in during the winter for storage without pulley swapping?
So to clarify what the question is asking, so we made another post about our true flex fuel system that we've been running for going on 5 years now. So our flex fuel, we use an ethanol content sensor that we put in the fuel system, in the fuel rail, crossover, return style, depending on what you have, the ethanol content sensors in your fuel system. That sensor feeds a signal into the factory PCM, in which then the PCM automatically makes the changes based on the reading from that ethanol sensor. It also displays the ethanol content sensor on the dash. So that being said, what we also have is a boost bleed feature. Now, to clarify what the boost bleed feature does is, generally on our level 1.5 package, let's talk about, we pulley that down to where it makes 15, 16 pounds of boost. That's safe on good pump gas to abuse the vehicle. So we don't instill a boost bleed feature. Now, if you're pulleyed with our level 3.5 package, where you have a 266 upper, 10% lower, ported blower, big throttle body, making 24 pounds of boost, you cannot run pump gas and abuse the car, right? You can't. I don't care what they tell you. You're not going to do it safely. So we have the ability with our flex fuel, when the ethanol sensor detects, hey, we're low on ethanol here, what it does is it keeps the bypass valve open. Okay, now, we still advise our customers, do not abuse it on pump gas, right? Why? We're relying on a computer and that valve to do exactly what it's supposed to do at any given time. But what this system does is, you fill up at a gas station and your ethanol content drops significantly. We want it to act and bleed the boost proactively. So if you accidentally goose it while you're driving around, or give a little too much throttle where normally it would build boost, it won't, right? So you can still drive, you can cross-country road trip. It's just if you go to pass that car real quick and you forget, oh, I don't have good corn, and you goose a little too much, it will bleed the boost to prevent damage. Just like a knock sensor, just like the injector pulse width limit, just like IATs, there are settings in place that try to work, but at the end of the day, it is the responsibility of the driver to understand, hey, I shouldn't abuse it with this low quality fuel, or low octane fuel with 24 pounds of boost pulleyed on my blower. So in regards to storage, absolutely. Yeah, you can store it. In that instance, the boost bleed is in effect, and it will do its best to bleed off all the boost that's there. So that's one of the benefits of it as well, is you don't have to worry about changing a tune when you go to store it over the winter. You can just load up and let the tune do its thing. Still start it, run it, whatever you want to do. Take it on a trip. If it's winter by you and you get an Indian summer or whatever you want to call it, you can drive it around and still enjoy it on the octane just for a little cruise. But it will do its best to prevent damage. It's not 100% fail-proof, right? We're relying on computers to do their thing and relying on you to understand. But yes, we do have that feature where it will do its best to bleed all the boost off. So,
last one. Want to do one more?
Yeah.
Okay. Had a couple people ask me recently, should you Hellcat oil pump, high volume, high pressure in a 5.764 motor?
Yeah.
Should you do it?
So that. Just like fuel pressure, sometimes if you make fuel pressure too high, it's not a good thing. Pressure doesn't always mean volume or that it's flowing. On the flip side, you don't want too much oil as well. I know there's that article out where they did a test where having low oil, for example, made more horsepower. Obviously not safe, don't do that.
Right.
But just show you that oil in there in contribution of fluids can affect your power output, reliability, and everything like that. So generally, we only change to a Hellcat oil pump if the need is there due to aftermarket changes, right? So, as an example, Hellcat lifters, right, non-MDS lifters are universal across the board. From Hellcat 392, whenever there's non-MDS, they are the same lifter, right? So they are run on manual 392s, right, that have their 392 pumps. So you don't need a Hellcat oil pump just because you have Hellcat lifters. What it's going to be based on is everything involved. Generally with Johnson short travel lifters, they require a little bit more fuel pressure, so it's beneficial. Not required, just keep an eye, on abuse and stuff like that. But you don't need it on a 5.7 392, if you're just forging the motor and going for 600, 700, 800. You don't not need it, right? So generally we stick with OEM parts until there's too many aftermarket parts that demand it. So not required by any means. Cam cars, for example, you do a cam, but the normal oil pump back on it, there's absolutely no reason to do a Hellcat oil pump. If you do a Forge 426 and a 3-liter Whipple and you're pulling it down to make 900, 1,000 wheel, yeah, go ahead, throw a Hellcat pump on. It's not necessarily negative. Look at the Hellcats, they do it right. But so you don't necessarily need it on a cam or anything like that. So application specific, find a builder and an engine builder that know what they're talking about there. So, so good question.
Yeah. I guess a little follow up. What do you typically like to see at idle for a 6.457? What do you say is healthy and what do you say is concerning?
It'll vary. Generally, it depends on the oil you have in it, the miles on the car, the type of modifications, things like that. Temperature around you, ambient high temperatures.
So it's not a one size fits all.
It's not. Generally, I get worried if I see below 15 psi oil pressure. And you do want to keep an eye on it. That oil pressure increases with RPM. So as long as you see that, I'm not too concerned about it. I've had guys with lower oil pressure. It's also based on how the engine's built and stuff like that. But if you have 15 and it's 95 degrees out, you have 0 W40 oil in it, and you're at 15 psi at idle, I'm not concerned. Watch it, and it goes up 30, 40 psi. Hellcats you'll see around 30, 40 at idle. It's like I said, it is application specific. Hellcats don't actually increase in the same value as other ones do too. So again, there's a lot of applications in there. Yes, too much oil pressure is bad. Yeah, I've seen on some data logs 100 psi where it pegs the sensor. That's not a good thing. There's no reason for that. You know what I mean? So tolerances on bearings, tolerances within the engine, and things like that can contribute to it. That's one of those things to keep an eye on. Too much is a bad thing, too low is a bad thing. But yeah, I would say
not a bad thing.
What?
Not a bad thing.
Too low. Too low. Right. One thing I will state that we have been working on, and we have exciting news, and you guys can keep out for it. Demon 170 Flex Fuel. I did confirm we have been able to implement that in an older vehicle. So, and it displayed on the dash. So this is something that we will be sharing more in depth in the next week or so as we finalize it. I was able to test it when we had a Demon 170 here and utilize the ethanol sensor to verify. So I'm excited to dive into more with that. So that means Satera Tuning will be able to offer 2 true version flex fuel styles for you guys. The one we have implemented for older models, because right now I know I can do it in 18 and newer. So those older ones we are going to be testing on my personal vehicle, Joe's vehicle, and a couple others, but something to keep out on. We're very excited for it. Thank you, Dodge, for actually bringing something out like that. So we're doing the final test bits on it, and we will reveal more of that. I don't think next week, because I know the CNC machine's most likely going to be here, so that's going to flood us a lot. But within 2 weeks, we will have a big announcement and display that. So it might be a whole live based off of the implementation of that. So beautiful Cinestick Super Stock is the first that we're doing in-house with it, so stay tuned for that. And then one more question we had. What do you say? How much horsepower can you safely make on a tune-only 22 red-eye Hellcat? Bone stock, otherwise, we have seen 60 to 80 horsepower increases from tune-only if you change nothing on the vehicle. And that is based on location and temperatures and things like that. So, yeah, 60 to 80 is what we advertise on a red-eye. Bone stock, otherwise, we have our push and motion package, which essentially is a stock red-eye where we just throw ID 1300s on it and run E85. Simply by doing that, we run high 9s all day long. So that you can see 100 horsepower increase safely as well just by injectors in the E85. And again, on a 22 red-eye with the announcement we just made with the flex fuel coming out, that will be huge to implement that with the push and motion package. So stay tuned on that. Like I said, big details are coming out for it. But yeah, good question there. So, all right, guys, keep those questions flowing. If you chime in later and you didn't watch the live, we will answer your questions in future videos. And yeah, stay tuned for the couple things we got coming, guys. Thank you again.